Hi guys, it has been some time since I published something for Kings of War, especially in English, and well, sorry for neglecting you, but well, it's not like I've been doing a lot of in the subject in my native Polish language, so. But anyway, there was certainly, there was still some material that I didn't publish in English. Something that was published in Polish, so I thought I'm gonna well catch up a bit. These are like two latest additions to my Kingdoms of Men armies. This one, well, I did quite some time ago actually, but I didn't record anything about it in English, so I thought I will fix that. So obviously this is a unit of pole arms in terms of Kings of War. These are mostly, or all of them, this is a mix of Perry miniatures and Warlord miniatures. Some of the arms are from the Warlord, mainly from the Zweihander halberdies. These arms that are carrying halberds are Warlord arms actually. These guys in front, these are actually all Perry miniatures. So they are kind of like made to portrait Swiss halberds, like the end of the 15th century, sort of, because I'm planning to use them in my game of Italian Wars, let's just call it that way. So they are dual purpose. I suppose if you're watching my stuff, you've noticed that I do have this multiple purpose, sort of like an idea. I like when the miniatures can be used in more than one setting, and I suppose they are not exactly what they should look like, but then who knows, actually not 100% anyway. So they are close enough. The thing, they are painted in the Swiss Confederation colors, something that probably was not a thing, especially on the battlefield, but still, I think they look cool. They all have this, I suppose you can see it somewhere, white crosses on their chests or legs or somewhere. Oops. So this basically was distinguishing them as a Swiss. Other than that, actually, they were just most likely, wearing like a plain clothes. More elaborate when we come to later in the 16th century. The thing that they picked up from the Landsknechts, possibly, or actually there is also a story which says it was actually the other way around, but sort of like it is a trend to say that Swiss, later on in the 16th century, were very similar to Landsknechts, or the other way around actually. Only the Swiss were less elaborate in their clothing. Or maybe not, because when you look at it, some drawings, they look pretty much identical. Anyway, these are my Swiss halberdies. Pole arms, a block, it's a regiment obviously. I'm planning on doing a next one, another one, so I can combine them into a horde. As you can see, they are based individually. So yeah, the other thing that I painted, well, sort of like recently, it's still like last year, not this year. It's this unit of, in terms of Kings of War, this is a foot guard with two-handed weapons. Both of these miniatures, this foot guard and pole arms, I did them to replace Games Workshop miniatures, which no longer will be part of my Kingdoms of Men army because of reasons. These are Warlords. Most of them are from the plastic Zweihander set. There are a few miniatures that I sort of like, I mean, all warlords as well, but I just adjusted them, like this guy, and that guy. Maybe I'll. These are warlords, but these are metal pikemen actually. Uh, I just there are a few loose handers in the plastic set, though, in order to make more variety within those guys. I decided to make those guys look like they are just casually standing with their huge swords, and I think they look pretty good, right? Well, this is a pikeman. I left him. I mean, I gave him actually a pike, and he will be a standard bearer as soon as I'll make some standard. Okay, I wasn't okay. Yeah, when it comes to painting, this is a very simple scheme. I actually use the contrast. I mean, I used two techniques. One was simply contrast. I mean, when it comes to black, and it turned out pretty nice. Actually, I like the black contrast. I don't like some of the contrast. I don't have many of those paints because the price is just fucking. Sorry, the price is just insane, right? But I like the black one. It really do its job. I use like a different technique. With a black undercoat and a dry brush of Reaper blue, I believe this is. It actually, looks pretty, undistinguishable, at least from the tabletop perspective, from the contrast. So, yeah, it's good. Although it's more work because you have undercoat and like dry brush of the Reaper, and then actually one more dry brush of even brighter blue. Well, anyway, they look pretty cool, I think. So it's a simple scheme, yet rather effective. I throw in some, browns to imitate leather-like things. And these again, guys, are to sort of like be a Black Legion. Supposedly, these were guys that Landsknecht that fought in Italian wars on the French king's side. And were actually destroyed by their counterparts at the Battle of Pavia, if I'm not mistaken. So these are painted to match actually the unit that I did like earlier. These arquebusiers, right? This is the same scheme. So this is the same scheme, apart from this one guy here. So I think they look pretty cool together. The funny thing is that the Black Band was mainly like all the infantry during most of it during the Italian wars. They were pikemen. So the Black Legion was pike mainly. I don't have any pike yet. I'll have it. Anyway, these two guys. An interesting thing I forgot to mention. These guys were painted. This is the pre-contrast era, if I may say so. Yet I was painting them mainly with the washes and ink-like quality paints. And for the units, I think they look gorgeous. Right? I mean, well, obviously that depends where your standards are. Mine standards are simply to paint, lots of miniatures in a given year. So I am not trying to pursue any beautiful painting standards that are mainly for a display. I think as units they look wonderful. And you know what, I actually, if you watch Holy Diver, I just totally agree what he said in one of his movies, that quality is overrated. Honestly, I rather see the whole army of painted miniatures in the low standard than gray army with the 5 beautifully painted miniatures and the rest of the army gray. So yeah, I totally agree with what he said. So this is it. Basically, those two units. Both of the units, I mean, I do have plans for making hordes out of both of them, so there will be more to come. I don't think I have miniatures at the moment to to make those two units bigger, but I'll have it. And yeah, and quite a few more things coming for my Kingdoms of Men, and there will be growing army of for my Italian Wars project, which is coming well this year possibly, along with a few other projects. So yeah, that depends on many things, many things. For now, this is it. Please consider subscribing and liking my materials if you finding them interesting. Of course, I will really try to publish more English materials. I don't do everything in English actually what I do on my channel, because I think there is a plenty of materials on in some subjects that are being covered in English, and I really don't feel like I'm adding to a matter. So not everything will be in English, but certainly I will try to do everything for Kings of War. When it comes to Kings of War, I will try to I will do everything in English, and and I will do quite a few more systems. So if you're interested, well, if you like me, I just love variety. I will play everything. I will try everything because I'm just curious about what kind of ideas people have when it comes to playing war games. So yeah, again, thank you for watching, and well, till next time. Cheers.